What's up, guys? Today, we're diving into a world of unbelievable stubbornness. We're talking about 10 homeowners who refuse to move no matter what. Bulldozers, malls, highways, you name it. These are real-life David versus Goliath battles. Some of these homes became symbols of resistance, others tourist attractions. Get ready to be amazed. Our story begins with Edith Macefield, a petite, silver-haired woman with a quiet smile and a spirit that could move mountains. Edith wasn't just any homeowner, she was a living legend in her Seattle neighborhood, known for her unwavering resolve and her deep love for the little house she called home. With a heart of steel and a gaze that could stop you in your tracks, Edith faced a challenge that would test her courage like never before. For decades, Edith had tended her garden, watched the seasons change from her window, and built a life filled with memories inside those modest walls. But in 2006, everything changed when a group of ambitious developers set their sights on her land. The plan? To build a massive, gleaming shopping mall that would tower over the neighborhood. One by one, her neighbors accepted offers and moved away, their homes quickly replaced by steel beams and concrete. But Edith stood firm, refusing to be swept aside by progress. The developers tried everything. They offered her over $1 million, more money than most people see in a lifetime. They promised her a brand new house, and even lifelong care, hoping she'd finally say yes. But Edith simply shook her head. Her home was priceless to her, and no amount of money could convince her to leave. For Edith, her house wasn't just a building, it was a treasure chest of memories, of laughter, love, and a life well lived. She remembered every creak in the floorboards, every flower she'd planted, and every friend who'd visited for tea. So, when the developers realized she wouldn't budge, they did something extraordinary. They built the entire 5-story mall around her little house, leaving it standing alone in the shadow of towering walls. Edith's home became a tiny island in a sea of glass and steel. News crews flocked to see the house that refused to disappear. Crowds gathered, snapping photos and cheering for Edith's determination. Her story spread across the world, turning her home into a viral symbol of resistance. A reminder that some things are worth more than money or convenience. People everywhere were inspired by Edith's stand. She became a hero to those who believe in standing up for what matters, no matter the odds. Her tiny house, dwarfed by the mall, became a beacon of hope and a testament to the power of one person's courage. Edith's story reminds us all, sometimes the smallest voice can make the biggest difference. Her legacy lives on, inspiring people everywhere to stand their ground and protect what they love. Next, we head to China, a country known for its rapid modernization and ever-expanding cities. But sometimes, even the most ambitious plans can be brought to a halt by the most unexpected obstacles. Our story takes us to the bustling city of Chongqing, a place where skyscrapers rise quickly and highways snake through the landscape, connecting millions of people. Yet, in the midst of all this progress, one small family home would soon become the center of a national drama. This is a story that feels like it was pulled straight out of a blockbuster movie, full of tension, drama, and a battle of wills. Imagine a city where change is constant, and the government is determined to make way for a brand new 6-lane highway, promising faster commutes and economic growth. But what happens when progress meets resistance? In the heart of Chongqing, a single family refused to leave their beloved home, even as bulldozers and construction crews closed in around them. The government had planned a massive highway that would cut directly through their property, but the family stood their ground. Their house, soon dubbed a nail house, like a stubborn nail that just won't be hammered down, became a symbol of resistance. Day after day, the family watched as the world changed around them, but their home remained untouched and unmoved. The authorities tried every tactic in the book. They offered compensation, hoping the family would accept and move on. When that didn't work, negotiations turned to pressure, and pressure turned to threats. Eventually, the government even cut off the family's water and electricity, hoping to make life so uncomfortable that they would have no choice but to leave. But the family refused to be intimidated. They cooked over open fires, fetched water from neighbors, and continued their daily lives as best they could. Their determination inspired others. The house became a rallying point for people who felt powerless in the face of big development. Protesters gathered, and the family stood proudly in front of their home, refusing to back down. Their story spread, and soon the little house was more than just a building. It was a symbol of standing up for your rights, no matter the odds. The standoff dragged on for years, capturing the attention of the entire nation. News crews arrived to document the family's struggle, and crowds gathered to witness the spectacle. The house, once just another home in a busy city, became famous across China. People debated the issue on television and online, asking, should progress always come at the cost of the individual? In the end, the government made a surprising decision. Rather than force the family out, they redesigned the highway, curving it around the stubborn little house. Construction crews worked carefully, building the road so that traffic would flow on either side, leaving the home untouched in the center. It was an extraordinary compromise and a rare victory for the underdog. Today, that small house stands alone, surrounded by the constant rush of cars and trucks speeding by on both sides. It's a strange and striking sight, a quiet home in the middle of a roaring highway. But it's also a powerful reminder that sometimes even the smallest voices can make a difference. The house has become a monument to courage, determination, and the belief that you can stand up for what you believe in, even when the world seems to be moving against you. So the next time you see a highway stretching off into the distance, remember the story of the house that refused to move. Sometimes all it takes is one determined family to stop a whole highway, and to remind us all that progress should never come at the cost of our principles. Meet Vera Coking, an unassuming elderly woman who became an unlikely symbol of resistance in Atlantic City. Vera lived in a modest boarding house just steps away from the glitzy casinos and neon lights that defined the city's famous boardwalk. Her home, though small and unremarkable to some, was filled with decades of memories, laughter, and family gatherings. But to one of the most powerful real estate moguls in America, Donald Trump, Vera's house was the last piece of a puzzle he desperately wanted to complete. Trump had grand plans for a new casino expansion, and Vera's property stood right in the way. He offered her money, first a fair price, then less and less, hoping she'd give in. But Vera refused to sell, no matter how much pressure was applied. To her, this wasn't just a building, it was her home, her sanctuary, and she wasn't about to let anyone, not even a billionaire, take it away from her. As the negotiations soured, Trump's tactics grew more aggressive. He tried intimidation, sending lawyers and city officials to her doorstep. He even pushed the city to use eminent domain, a legal maneuver that would force Vera to sell her home for the sake of economic development. But Vera was undeterred. She faced down lowball offers, threats of eviction, and the looming shadow of Trump's influence, all while standing firm in her resolve. The battle soon moved from the streets to the courtroom. Vera, with the help of determined lawyers and a growing group of supporters, challenged Trump and the city's attempts to take her property. The legal fight was long and exhausting, stretching over years and making headlines across the country. But Vera never wavered. She fought not once but twice, and each time the court sided with her, affirming her right to keep her home. When the final verdict was delivered, Vera emerged victorious. The courts protected her right to her home, and her story quickly spread, inspiring people far beyond Atlantic City. She became a folk hero, a symbol of the everyday person standing up to power and winning against all odds. Crowds gathered to celebrate her victory, and newspapers hailed her as the woman who beat Trump at his own game. Vera Coking's story is a powerful reminder that courage and determination can triumph over wealth and influence. She proved that even the biggest developers can't always steamroll the little guy, and that sometimes standing your ground is all it takes to change history. This next one is pure pettiness, the Spite House in Boston. Two brothers inherited land, one built a big house, leaving the other with a tiny lot. The slighted brother built a tall, skinny house just to block his brother's sunlight and views. Only 10 feet wide at its narrowest, it's now a Boston landmark, a monument to sibling rivalry. Imagine your tiny house surrounded by New York skyscrapers. The owner of this home has turned down millions from developers, refusing to let go of their piece of old New York. Some call it crazy, others call it grit. But this little house is now an icon of resistance in a city obsessed with progress. Sometimes holding on means making history. In Los Angeles, the Wilshire Boulevard house stood in the way of a massive subway project. The owner refused to sell, arguing the house was a piece of LA's history. Preservationists and celebrities rallied behind the cause. After years of protests and lawsuits, developers agreed to move the house brick by brick to a new location. It was a huge effort, but the house survived, thanks to community action. Sometimes, saving history takes a village. In Toronto, a family refused to sell their home, even as a shopping mall was built around them. Developers thought they'd cave, but the family stood firm. The mall went up, wrapping around their house, which still stands today as a bizarre island of home life in a sea of commerce. It's proof that sometimes you really can live in your own world. In Seattle, Austin Tobin refused to sell his house for a freeway expansion in the 1950s. The city tried everything, but Austin wouldn't budge. They built the freeway around his home, which became a local legend, the Freeway House. Even after Austin passed, his house stood as a symbol of stubbornness. In Vancouver, the Cambie Street Holdout became famous for resisting a massive condo development. The homeowner loved their bungalow and refused every offer. As towers rose around it, the house became a symbol of resistance and a local celebrity. People stopped by to take photos, inspired by its tenacity. Sometimes, the little guy really can stand up to the big developers. In Portland, one woman refused to sell her home to make way for a parking lot. Developers tried everything, but she stood firm, so they built the lot around her house. The lone house became a symbol of resistance, standing alone in a sea of asphalt. Which homeowner do you think was the most stubborn? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more unbelievable stories every week.